Yeah, so got Blake Cavill here and Zach Crotchfelt, both seniors for us. Obviously, Zach being a left-handed pitcher, it was tremendous, and Blake, our first baseman, had a big day.
For Blake, just two big flies today. Obviously, just seemed like you were involved in just about every one of you guys' offensive outputs today. What were you seeing out there, and how good did it feel to see two balls go out of the park?
It really comes down to the first at bat. I was early, I was out front, opened up the stride a little bit bigger. Next at bat, up the middle. That's when I knew I was back on plane. I got a first pitch both times, fastball, middle in, and did what Ben told me to do.
For Coach Meade, congrats on the bullpen coming in, really giving you guys some key innings today. How big was that, especially, just to be a workhorse for you guys coming out of the pen, especially knowing you're going to have to come back and play multiple games in the tournament?
Yeah, the workhorse aspect obviously becomes huge, but I think the biggest part was he was prepared for the moment that he needed to be at his best. Walked the first guy when he came in. The game was kind of at odds. Tommy had lost the zone, also appears to the team to be a little banged up, which if you remember, which unfortunately I do, we dealt with that with Gary last year. Gary Gaines was pitching. It kind of took some of the mojo, and, you end up losing a really tight game in the first one. Now, we bounced back, but I would certainly prefer not to lose the first game. And so we end up getting the huge K of Melton, big 95 ride ball. And then, that kid grinds, but we felt like there was a pitch in our back pocket to execute a great fastball on the inner side, and we're able to induce a double play. I thought Darnell did a good job playing patient on it. He's a good runner, but you don't have to over-attack that ball and get in front of the base. He caught it, rhythm, step, touch, and then obviously got it to Blake. But that's where the game is won. You never know when it is. You think you know when it is, but that was the time that we won the game. The length on the back end is because Zach has really worked on his mental. The stuff is great, but he's really worked on his mental so hard from the fall and beyond. And he was able to just simply put that into action, and it was huge for us, of course.
Zach, can you talk just about, Coach Meade and the rest of the coaches having the trust in you to be put in that key leverage situation? Obviously, walk the first batter, but then be able to get the strikeout and then introduce that double play that we talked about.
Yeah, just go out there and feel super confident. I know that these guys have a lot of trust in me, so it makes my life a little bit easier. And yeah, unfortunately walked the first guy. I was getting the feel, but man, it just comes down to all those days working on stuff, all the tough spots that we've been in this year, just staying convicted, being in the moment, and really just I think back to when I gave up Tommy's runs earlier in the year, and man, that motivates me to not give those runs up this time, and just kind of push through and whatever adversity there is for the guys.
And then for Coach Meade, how big is it to win game one in a tournament like this, and then just how does that really set you up hopefully for success moving forward?
I think the biggest part, we'll dive into the details of our next game. We know who our next game is, obviously, against Southern Miss. But I think the biggest aspect is, and look, it was a battle for everybody, and the Sun Belt, got to the right spot last night. Like, it's not easy. Weather is just difficult. But the reality is nobody wants to play a second game today. And that was the kind of looming cloud in this game. And so, and I'm sure South is going to bounce back because Coach Calvi and them, this is a really good team that they have. But I would be remiss if I didn't say I wanted no part of us playing again today. Even myself, who generally speaking runs pretty good on energy, I'm going to need a little something too. You're going to just need a little decompress. And I just think that's the biggest part of it. Just resets where you are timing wise. Of course, you're in the winner's bracket, which is great, and we have a great challenge ahead. But our body clocks need a reset, and we earn the opportunity to have that.
Last one for me here, you mentioned Southern Miss the next matchup here. Team didn't play in the regular season, so what does it mean to get a chance against them, and then just what do you do to prepare in this kind of shorter time frame?
Well, I thought us tying for third and losing the tiebreaker, it might have been something that would have us avoid Southern Miss again. But as fate would have it, we did not. I say that obviously just tongue in cheek. But look, we know what kind of program Southern Miss is. We had an incredibly competitive weekend down there earlier this year that obviously people can look up and confirm what I'm speaking of. But it's just going to be a great opportunity to get after it. And in this league, and we've certainly won our fair share of games, but Southern Miss and Coastal have been they've been in that 1-2 slot, those last couple of years. And so You're going to play great teams. There's no freebies. It doesn't matter whom you play. And so we'll be ready for it. I'm not going to do any preparing for at least, 3 or 4 hours. We've seen them a lot. We watched them last night before the rain. And so these guys will be ready. That's one thing I can tell you is they enjoy being in the arena. They really do. It doesn't mean we don't have our flaws. It doesn't mean sometimes that we'll do things that can be a bit head scratching, of course, but they're college kids. But the thing as their coach that I can tell you is they actually embrace being in those sort of atmospheres. And I know it'll be a fun atmosphere tomorrow with what Southern Miss brings and hopefully with what Trojan fans bring at 11 o'clock.